Hey folks, I am glad to welcome you to the Captain Herman channel, and today we will have a release. Well, I don't know how interesting it will be for you, but we share our impressions, and something new in our releases that we learn and learn. Today we will be Frida. Are you ready?
Ready.
We are going very far now, through the whole of Denpasar, across the whole island, straight to the north. You already know our friend Sasha, who will teach us this. We will have a very busy program. Stay tuned. Don't interrupt me. Check the bell, subscribe, and let's go learn something new. Before we get started, let me make a little disclaimer. We don't teach anyone freediving because it's very dangerous. If you really want to do this, take courses in freediving and from professionals. From professionals, of course. Because when you go at your limits, chances of not swimming out are also present. Therefore, do not risk your life. This is quite a dangerous event. We're not teaching you how to do it. We're just telling you about our experience. If you like the experience, go to the freediving school and pass. We have quite a long road ahead of us. In order to drive north, you need to drive through the volcano, and accordingly, through the entire island, from south to north. The total number of kilometers is probably 80-90, but the fact is that Denpasar is a very busy place. And the total travel time will be about 3 hours, and of which 1.5 will take driving through Denpasar, through traffic jams, through these busy roads. But after we break out of the clutches of the city, we start driving along an incredibly beautiful road that rises up to the volcano. And already from the volcano we go down. Interestingly, the temperature difference between the bottom and the top of the volcano is 12 degrees. That is, if you leave and you have 30 degrees below in Denpasar, maybe a little more, then on the mountain you will have around 18. Which is very cold, and you need to dress warmly. But the road is incredibly beautiful, as I have already said, and it is a great pleasure to drive along it. Winding, mountainous, on a good motorcycle with good suspension. It's going really cool here. In general, in 3 hours, even 3 hours with Capex, we arrive in Tayakula. This is a large region, a large area that is located in the north. And already here, at Sasha's Villa Octopus Villas, we will conduct our class. We're going to spend a few days here. Tokas Villas is located on the very shore. 8 villas with swimming pools. A very beautiful place. And there is also a dive center and a reef, which is right in walking distance. You can enter directly from the shore. If you don't know how to push, then the first classes are also held here, and Sasha can teach you and dive with you, show his reef, on which he is very well oriented. Therefore, welcome to Octopus Villa and the dive center.
Well, our first introductory lesson started with the fact that we just held our breath in the open air, without any preparation, just to know our introductory values.
Yes, because it will be important in the future when you analyze your dives already. And your progress. And your progress, yes. But before we actually started to hold our breath, we got a fairly extensive theory in which we were told how the body works, what to expect and what not to be afraid of at the moment of immersion in the future.
Well, yes, that is, the first stage is that we wrote down all our values. We had 3 attempts in the open air, that is, the first time just like this, the second time trying to concentrate a little, calm down and adjust ourselves. That is, in such a super calm way, that is, before that, to breathe in smooth, deep, slow breaths, and see if there is any difference. What a dynamic!
Are you ready to dive?
Well, I'm a little sleepy.
Well, that's good for a free dive.
So let's check it out.
I'm ready. We go under the water. We climb on the bottom. Bottom of the bottom. And after we recorded our values in the air, it was time for dives. But the first dive we did in the pool, because it's already underwater. You don't have the opportunity to take some unconscious micro breaths there, because you don't control yourself well there, but at the same time, so that you have the opportunity to come up and inhale in case of something, that is, it's safe. Since Dina had time, what was your big time? It was a great time.
Can I hand myself a nose? How?
If I move you a little bit. Well,
It's just that you moved me, that's it.
yes, but if it happens before I arise. I mean, it's okay, I'm not telling you anything about what to do, but it's simple.
I'll try to relax better.
Do as you feel comfortable. Sasha was with Dina in the pool, holding her hand, and after the time, therefore 2.5 to 3 minutes. He checked if everything was fine. Because when a person is completely relaxed in the pool, it looks quite creepy.
How did he check? Him. We agreed that there, at a certain moment, he would come up to me, take my hand, I would have to take his hand, and there, with some interval and only understandable to him, he would press my hand a little bit. I would have to immediately press in response. That is, he thereby controls in general in consciousness or I, whether I feel any micro vibrations, micro movements. That is, whether I'm all right, and well, that is, these first dives. It was not a dive at all, but just dipped my head into the water. It kind of makes you abstract a little bit from the environment. It's better to relax your body, because you're kind of in a state of buoyancy. You have nothing pressing on anything. That is, the knee does not itch there, the spine does not get tired there. That is, everything that you feel. For example, just sitting there in some position convenient for yourself, and freezing. Somewhere some muscles will be tense, and, well, since you need to sit and not fall anyway, or there somehow to stand, or sit, or lie down, but you still feel something, because something will put pressure on something. And when you're in this position in the water, you can completely relax all the muscles. And here, in fact, was the task.
Well, tell me, is it much easier to relax underwater? That is, we usually had more time underwater than in the air, sort of.
Well, unless, plus, there is an opportunity to wear a mask. That is, there is a little bit of this feeling in the mask that, what kind of water is pouring into my eyes? It gets into my eyes, it's uncomfortable. That is, you are wearing a mask calmly with your eyes closed in the pool. The main thing here is that no one on the surface, there giggles and comments, because it's all, of course, very clearly audible.
Aye. Distracting. Strongly, yes.
Yes.
Now you see a sign with our results. We took 2 measurements. The first froze it was in the air, not yet realizing what was happening. The second measurement is after we have already conducted a theoretical course. You'll see that my best time in the air is 1 minute 39. In this case, Dina 302. After we've all passed, my time is 31 minutes, Dina's is 2:44. This is due to the fact that the body gets tired and you consume more oxygen anyway. And in the water, the first measurement we had was 1 minute 19 for me, 3:11 for Dina. And after a conscious dive, I have 1 minute 47, Dina 3:28. But looking ahead, I will say that we have improved our results, and I got 2 minutes, and Dina has 3:40. Let's tell you more about freediving equipment, because, let's say, the same fins and masks, they are different.
Well, yes. Freediving fins are, as a rule, these super long fins that allow you to wave them more effectively already underwater, not on the surface. On the surface, it's completely uncomfortable in these fins.
If they climb out, underwater from the water, then they lose their power.
Well, and the mask should be of a smaller volume. That is, Somewhere after 10 to 15 meters of immersion, you already feel that you need not only to blow through, but you also need to blow air through your nose into the mask to compensate for the pressure in it. And in a low mask, this is a micro mask of a smaller volume. This effect comes much later and is much less disturbing.
The fact is that when you descend to a depth, for every 10 meters, you increase the pressure on the atmosphere. Accordingly, the volume of air in the lungs decreases, and when you are already at a sufficiently deep depth, sometimes in order to blow into the mask, you need to make half an exhalation there and you lose a lot of air that is in the lungs. But you need oxygen, which you get from this air. Accordingly, you lose a lot of energy just to exhale into the mask, no matter how strange it may sound.
Later, further than 10 meters is already allowed and is recommended to have a low mask. They are more like
Glasses.
glasses are like swimming goggles, but it's still a mask.
With your nose.
With your nose, so that you can go there. Blow out.
Well, when you dive, you need to purge. That is, you need your. Well, there was this elastic band on my nose. In other words, this is an ordinary mask. There is just less air in front of your eyes.
Well, it is smaller as a rule, in size. Accordingly, she already has a viewing angle. Well, that is, there are pluses, there are minuses.
Well, now it's time to go under the water and show real results. For what, in fact, it was all about.
But this is still our first lesson.
Well, naturally, yes. This is the beginning of our journey in freediving, and, probably, we need to tell you a few words why we need it. Because we have aqualings on the boat, there are cylinders, there is a compressor. We can, but we don't use it. Well, it doesn't matter. But I mean, if we need to get in there, then we put on our gazebos and climbed under the water. And why do we need freediving?
Well, I personally need freediving, for example, in order to spend better and more productive time underwater, filming everything I shoot. Because often, in order for the fish to relax around you, you have to hide there and not constantly row, float, and dive. In other words, it gives you the opportunity to sit down somewhere for a pebble carefully and make much better, successful shots. Well, in my case it's like this.
Here. Do you see? That is, we have freediving. It's no longer about diving deeper, although many believe that freediving is about that. And we have a task so that we can just sit there even at a depth of 5 meters, longer than we did in ordinary unconscious diving.
Yes, because many fish, they calm down and relax, and do not see you as a threat when you stop leapfrogging back and forth, so they don't understand. They think that you are some kind of danger to them, and when you calmly sat down somewhere, or swim very, very slowly, but not up and down there, frantically waving your flippers, but so very calmly and for some time. That is, it gives a much better result. Since we do not choose the weather, we have already arrived, and we have a dive today. We have what we have, and we have such a disgusting gloomy sky, dark, heavy rain, thunder, thunderstorms. Well, that's it. That is, of course, it affects in general what is darker at the bottom. And the deeper you go down, the more gloomy and dark it is.
And scary.
Well, yes, well, it looks a little like you're really sinking into some kind of abyss. That is, if there was some sunny day, the visibility would be much better, much lighter, much brighter, because you are there without flashlights, without anything. That is, it looks a little so gloomy, especially when you get there, approaching 20 meters there, you want to run back from there. In other words, you need to overcome this anxiety in yourself, to some extent, a little. You realize that you still have a lot of time, but you already want to go back urgently, because it's dark there.
Creepy. Creepy.
Well, yes.
Sash's buoy was standing at 30 meters, in my opinion, right? Or more than 40.
Well, not probably 30, I think.
30. And firm above firm the buoy. This fight is one that you can hold on to, relax, breathe, and then you go down the rope. It's much easier than just paddling with fins, because you can grab the rope.
But there is a landmark there. The rope is always a landmark. That is, you don't swim away from it anywhere, either to the left or to the right, back or forth. And there are cutoffs. And when you focus on something in general, it adds a lot of peace to you because, well, you see the next mark. You realize that the next mark is 15 meters and the next one is 20 meters. That is, in general, on the one hand, you see your progress. On the other hand, you can push her limus a little there, but on the third side, you have something to focus on. That is, you are not there. What is it? Oh my God, how dark, how scary it is around. Is there a current here? Where is it taking me? In other words, you're kind of holding on to this rope.
Well, it was also such a serious experience for me when, from the point of view of understanding, when I dived for the first time. We probably had a depth of 7 meters there. Well, some small depth, that is, up to 10 meters. No, I mean the very first time I went down the rope. And here you go down, it seems to you that you already need to inhale. After all, the spasms begin to inhale. That is, when your body reacts, it needs to inhale. It's nothing to worry about, it's just that many people are scared of it, because the diaphragm starts to contract. And it seems that you are suffocating.
Well, yes, such as microspasms in the diaphragm area.
But this is due to the fact that you have more carbon dioxide in your body, and the brain gives the command to inhale. Since you are underwater, this is not possible. And it turns out like this, a signal to inhale. But you can live with it. You just need to relax even more, and then the body understands that everything is okay. But when you dive, the first time I dived 7 meters, it seemed to me at the bottom at 7 that was it, I was suffocating. I urgently need to breathe. I ran to the top, inhaled as if with the last of my strength, and then, well, it was the first time. And then I looked at the dive computer. It turned out that this whole procedure took me 15 seconds. Despite the fact that we are even in the pool there, well, I walk for a minute and a half, but we are generally silent. There are some exorbitant figures there, close to a world record. Oh well, no. Well, purely on time, without effort.
Well, in such a stationary, load-free state.
Yes, of course, it's different.
Just purely so it would be completely different.
Because when you row and make some effort, you have more oxygen consumption in your muscles, and, accordingly, it turns out much less.
Well, yes, in statics and dynamics. These are completely different indicators, but mine was very good for a start.
And anyway, there's a minute and a half that I had to delay, or there's a minute and 40, it doesn't matter how much. And 15 seconds from 7 meters, I realized that it's not about that at all, that I could have been underwater longer. And the next time I dived there for about 12 meters. And so I wanted to go up quickly, but I forced myself to relax and smoothly began to climb the rope. Somewhere else.
You can stop. That is, when you realize that you may not float up yet. You may linger at some stage. That is, you do not need to maintain your buoyancy there for this. You just grab the rope and hang. Therefore, how many more seconds or minutes you need in this state before the full surfacing already occurs.
It turns out that you can still control, add time if you feel that everything is fine. And it's also interesting that when you dive, even if you hang out well with loads, you still have positive buoyancy for the first 5 meters. Because you have a lot of oxygen in your lungs, a lot of air, and it pushes you out. But when you go down there 4, 5 to 7 meters, this air becomes less and your buoyancy is neutralized. And when you go down by 10, there, maybe a little more, you start having negative buoyancy, and you start going down, just drowning under your own weight. And this is the feeling when we float up there, it's neutral there, you sink there, and it's all in one dive. It's very interesting to notice this inside yourself.
You have to get used to it.
Of course, you have to get used to it.
You have to get used to it, and you have to count on it. The fact that there, let's say, when you have already plunged, you will need to wave your flippers for the first few meters there, then barely there, and then the last 5 or 7 meters there, you can no longer wave your flippers at all.
You just start to sink, and the deeper, the faster.
I'm the opposite.
On the contrary. Well, yes, top. Well, you, in general, understood. So, people, we have told you about our experience. Once again, I want to explain to you that we just shared how it was with us, so that you would discover something new for yourself. Maybe you will be interested in this. There is no need to learn from this video, because it is very dangerous.
Well, in general, It is not necessary to study by video. This is the case when you need to have a competent, responsible person next to you, who is like Sasha with us. He was directly immersed with us every dive and surfaced with us. He caught us from some depth already. That is, we ourselves plunged to the deepest that we can. He met us at some point. Sometimes he calmed us down there.
He looked into the face calmly. Calm down. You relax, you see those eyes.
It is important to have a professional person next to you who will monitor your progress process, the learning process, and all that. And in our case, it was a super express course. That is, such fundamentals of the basics, the base of the off space.
Chances to continue to do this consciously.
That is, ideally, it is probably possible to devote about a week to this kind of calm, correct, measured dives, in the right conditions, with the right time intervals, in order to have time to rest, to have time to recharge.
To make the weather better, not rain. But we didn't choose. Whatever the weather was, it was like that.
In general, it's very interesting. It's very cool in terms of in general. It's a kind of soft skills that will help you to some extent calm yourself in stressful situations, calm down, and tune into the correct measured breathing.
Concentrate.
Which allows, in principle, to harmonize and put in order both the heartbeat and this is to remove this kind of stress, spasm from some. Panic mode. In other words, this is a very, very, very useful thing for life in general, not only for underwater filming, swimming with fish.
Just knowing yourself is always interesting, but for me this experience that we got was probably one of the most vivid experiences in the last couple of years. In other words, I felt that here you are working with your inner world, with your understanding of how it all happens. In general, it was very cool.
Well, yes, there are a lot of things tied to breathing, and being able to feel, understand and control and manage your breathing is just such a super skill, as for me.
And tell me, how much, after all, what are the results? Let's voice it. How deep did you dive? I don't remember. 22 meters. But I remember. And I dived for 17. Well, before the first experience, quite, in my opinion, a good one.
It's just that we're recording now. It's been a very long time since we were going to make this video, but it's been real for how long?
How long have you been holding your breath?
340.
340. And I did it. 1 minute 50. It doesn't matter, it's still how much your body consumes oxygen and how it works. And there you are already underwater. When you have movement, you are already working with it.
Just a skill in general calming down underwater. Because when I focus on some fish, I can at some point forget about the fear and about the fact that it's time for me to breathe, because there's something else I need.
I'm going to finish this carp.
Frames, yes. As a rule, it's just a whole task. There are 2 or 3 good shots out of 50, because I compensate for the lack of skill with the number of samples. And that's why I always need more. And I'm going to sit there until the last one, and, to some extent, not feel that this is about to pop up, because I really want to get the right good frame.
In general, friends, we had such an experience. Try freediving. It's fun. We really liked it.
And yes, it is important to find your person, with whom you are comfortable, reliable, with whom there is this sense of security.
Who understands what he is doing.
Chooses your stress. In other words, the right instructor is the key to success.
Friends, subscribe to the channel, check the bell. There's something else cool coming out next week. Maybe we'll make a streamer. Well, I promise to record a video about drones. That is, it will all be already. A swashbuckling stream? Yes, all of this will be in the next releases. So don't miss it. We check the subscription and the bell. See you next week. Bye.